the order at Yale, 15 of them selected out of every junior class. They paid. Wall Street financed Hitler, financed Stalin, creating communism, which is what they did. That's all very bad, and Skull and Bones is all involved in that with the order.
They concerned the build-up of the three types of socialism: Bolshevik socialism in Russia, what we might call welfare socialism in the United States, and Hitlerian or National Socialism. And each book examines the financing and the contributions made by Wall Street, by international bankers, to the development of that specific form of socialism.
It also was involved in changing the American education system from a classical academic, brain-oriented thinking, destroying that, and imposing an animal training method, which Skull and Bones was deeply involved, and I think I would just say the only entity at that time deeply involved, and managed to bring that wretched system of operant conditioning, Pavlov, Skinner, whatever you want to call it, animal training, out of the laboratory in Leipzig, Germany, Wilhelm Wundt, and get it adopted by leading American educators.
Motivation and reward are crucial factors in learning. A motivated animal will learn any response which occurs and is promptly followed by a reduction in the strength of the drive.
My father and grandfather were members of the order. Skull and Bones was put together by William Russell in 1830, secret society at Yale University. And the connections with Germany are pretty extensive. You know, the Illuminati, I think, it's got to be, I think that there's a lot of research out there that I haven't even read that is there, that does connect it with the Illuminati. And the Illuminati, of course, was Bavarian Marxist society based on destroying the family, destroying the church, which at that time was Catholicism, destroying religion, destroying national entities, boundaries, no more. I have, you know, the Proofs of Conspiracy by Robeson, an original copy of that, and it says right in there, you know, where the order, it's interesting, the order, right? The goal was to, just as I said, down with the family, down with the royalty. At that time, governments were royalty, and they were religious. That was Western European, right? Down with nationalism, get rid of countries, drop borders. I mean, and people think that that's new. The Illuminati order, this is Skull and Bones, see? The Illuminati order documents show that Raphael in the Illuminati is identified as the same Professor Karl Casimir Wundt. This is fascinating. Kirchenrat Karl Casimir Wundt, the one we're talking about, was professor at Heidelberg University in the history and geography of Baden, this town, and pastor of the church at Oeblingen, a small neighborhood town. So, Wundt was connected with the Illuminati, his grandfather. Well, this is the background of Wilhelm Maximilian Wundt, who really trained the American educators in the behavioral psychology, stimulus response training type of Skinner, operant conditioning, bells, whistles, all that stuff, which does not teach, it trains for the workforce. Now, this was, the order at Yale was directly connected with Wilhelm Wundt. They sent educators over there to study under Wundt. Stanley Hall was the first one to go. This is so important, this stuff here. The Hegelian influence on Hall. Between 1870 and 1882, a span of 12 months, Hall, an American, there's a lot of information on him here too, but I won't go into it. He was connected with Skull and Bones prior to going over. It probably sent him over. Spent 6 years in Germany And he says, I do not know of any other, this is Hall talking, any other American student of these subjects, philosophy and psychology, who came into even the slight personal contact it was my fortune to enjoy with Hartman and Fechner. There were psychologists over there as well. Nor of any psychologist who had the experience of attempting experimental work with Helmholtz. And I think I was the first American pupil of Wundt. Now, Wundt is the one we're dealing with. Wilhelm Wundt from Germany. He had the first laboratory, and people think that American psychology and all was the psychologist studied under Pavlov, that Pavlov was the first. No. Pavlov, interestingly enough, studied under Wilhelm Wundt in Leipzig. The 12 years included in this span as an American pupil of Wundt, more than any other equal period, marked and gave direction to modern psychology. Wilhelm Wundt, 1832 to 1920, professor of philosophy at University of Leipzig, was undoubtedly the major influence on G. Stanley Hall, who was subsequently who trained, all the others, Thorndike, Dewey, and all of them, okay? And he was sent over. Hall, it appears that he had a lot of connections with the order at Yale, and that's why he ultimately ended up going to Leipzig. Modern education practice stems from Hegelian social theory combined with the experimental psychology of Wilhelm Wundt. The Hegelian theory, create the problem, people scream, impose a solution type of thing. And no right, no wrong, too. Whereas Karl Marx and von Bismarck applied Hegelian theory to the political field, it was Wilhelm Wundt, influenced by Johann Herbart, who applied Hegel, the Hegelian dialectic, to education, which in turn was picked up by Hall and John Dewey and modern educational theorists in the United States. If that's to create the problem and people scream and pose a solution. That's the Hegel. Wundt is the animal training method that bypasses the brain. Wundt is important in the history of American education for the following reasons. He established in 1875 the world's first laboratory in experimental psychology to measure individual responses to stimuli. 2. Wundt believed that man is only the summation of his experience, the stimuli that bear upon him. It follows from this that for one, man has no self-will, no self-determination. Man is in effect only the captive of his experiences, a pawn needing guidance. 3. Students from Europe and the United States came to Leipzig to learn from Wundt the new science of experimental psychology. These students returned to their homelands to found schools of education or departments of psychology and trained hundreds of PhDs in the new field of psychology. The core of our problem is that Wundt's work was based on Hegelian philosophical theory and reflected the Hegelian view of the individual as a valueless cog in the state. A view expanded by Wundt to include man as nothing more than an animal influenced solely by daily experiences. This Wundtian view of the world was brought back from Leipzig to the United States by G. Stanley Hall and other Americans and went through what is known among psychologists as the Americanization of Wundt. Although Hall was primarily a psychologist and teacher, his political views were partially Marxist, as Hall himself writes, quote, I had wrestled with Karl Marx and half accepted what I understood of him. Confessions, and don't forget Karl Marx used, the Communist Manifesto was basically Weishaupt. It's important to remember that. Huh? So this is really a very fine chapter out of Sutton's book, America's Secret Establishment. This is the chapter, How the Order Controls Education. And I want to point out that nobody but Sutton, in the writings on the order, has ever really dealt with education. Sutton saw the importance. I mean, he'd been doing all the work on our, age of the Soviet Union, on technology and all for the Hoover Institute. But he really, he's the only one who ever connected the order with education. Yeah, you know, even this great book that we've all, that Sudden Leipzig Connection, this great book, I don't believe that Paoli Leone understood the connection with the order either. He wrote about Wundt. It's a fantastic little book. You couldn't get it. You know, the viewers can get this book. I think it's, you know, there are a few very important books on education. I'd say that this is the #1 book on education that's ever been written. This little book. And I think Anthony Sutton agreed, because he got a lot of his work in his book on the order from the Leipzig Connection as well. If we want to start with the condition of the average American right now, who has been conditioned by the television and in the schools and pretty much in daily life, you know, with the community councils and all, it goes away from the individual. Everything is to get, well, John Dewey said it, we have to get rid of the individualism. Everything goes towards the collective, the group. And ever since the early 60s or 50s, they've had the training sessions going on. They started in Bethel, Maine, National Training Labs, to use sensitivity training to bring people together in groups, and they all spill their guts about everything. And once you've done that, you're dependent on that person, right? Because they know everything about you. So this is the way you form the collective. It really is very interesting, the sensitivity training, how it works. And it says right in the original documents that it's Chinese Communist thought control. Well, Americans have been exposed to this now, you know, certainly since World War II. And they've become little collectivists, really, groupies. They think that way. Anybody who thinks as an individual really is looked at askance, you know, strange person, you know, having an opinion that is opposite to what I've heard every night on the TV or in school or in college. Strange person, these individualists, huh? So that's what we're looking at now. We finally, this is very interesting right now. I mean, talking about the Rockefeller Foundation, the General Education Board of Carnegie, you have, this is the chart showing that the University of Chicago, the School of Education, which had John Dewey and Charles Judd were there. Columbia University Teachers College, John Dewey Thorndike, who had his pet chickens that he trained, James E. Russell, and then James McKell at in the Department of Psychology at Columbia. All of those were all funded at Hopkins Medical School by Rockefeller Foundation's General Education Board and Carnegie Foundation. Now, when you think back to everything I've been talking about, the Carnegie Conclusions and Recommendations to change the American education, 1934, to change American education from the standard, you know, classical education that we have, basically to outcomes-based ed, because Carnegie, after they wrote that nifty little blue book that outlines a socialist America, using Carnegie's views, they had something called the 8-year study, the Carnegie Corporation, which we didn't realize until I read something in the Education Commission of States used to have, or still does, maybe in Denver, has a newsletter. And I was reading it one day, and at the bottom of the page, I just saw something, and it said, OBE is simply because we were fighting OBE, outcomes-based education, performance-based education for workforce training, performance. And I turned the page, and I said, it's just a rerun, virtually, of the Carnegie Corporation's 8-year study in the 1930s. And I went, what? And then we went and we got the whole 8-year study out of the University of Georgia Library, because the editor of my book lives in Athens, Georgia. And we got the 8-year study. And the 8-year study actually is what they're putting in right now. It's the no grades. It's removing the Carnegie unit, which requires the old Carnegie unit. You guys went through it in school. You know, we all did. 4 years of math, 4 science, 4 English, 4 history, whatever, in order to graduate. And all of that has been removed now, because the student is not focusing on intellectual endeavor. It's workforce training.
I'm sorry.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. You told me you wanted me to call you and answer some questions.
Yeah, good question. Have you ever done any research on the Cape Verdean Jewish Cape Verdean?
Yeah, have you spent any time on my website?
Yeah, but we can't find it. Yeah, my brother's on the website. We can't seem to find it. You see, we have to, you look at the website, but we didn't see anything on that.
Well, that's kind of hard. I'll tell you what, I'll go on the website right now. I'm at my computer. Because there's quite a bit on there.
There is quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Yeah, but I could answer it for you if you want.
Well, I was just, I was just wanting to see if you have do you have any pictures or anything? I was looking on the website and I saw, the gravestone and the synagogue on the Jewish Cape Verde. And I just found it interesting. I'm just learning about it now. So since I learned about it, I find that Karen, did you want to know much about the Jewish Cape Verde? And that's what I was wondering.
Okay, so if you know about there's two stories, two sides to every story.
Two sides to every story.
You better believe it. It's their story and then it's the truth. All right? Now, if you do your homework, and the easiest way to be sure, instead of, because having faith and believing other people isn't really good because they could be wrong, So you have the most easiest thing in the world is the computer. You can go on Wikipedia, and what you do is you start connecting the dots. You put the keywords in, and you can study, and pretty much you're going to end up with a group called Nagas, because most of the books that are written by Anglo-Saxon, European people. The ones that are, the information that you'll get some of, but you'll get an African version of it, African American version of it, but it'll be more detailed. The problem with the African American version is that it won't have pictures.
I'm going to talk about the pineal gland because it's a big subject I hear a lot of people talking about it, and talking about it should stimulate it also because of Shaktipat. But you're free to go look at it.
Events that we are experiencing are being purposely moved along and escalated by the powers that be, and I'm wondering if you looked at that side of it.
I have, in fact. What's going on is that the powers that be that are here are not the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki have left, but they've left behind the managers. We'll call them managers.
Yes.
The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all these guys are their managers. And the managers don't like us. And they think that they're trying to get rid of us, is what they're trying to do. It's a gigantic depopulation effort going on, and it's working. And so they're trying to trim down the population to some reasonable size and hope that they can go into their underground shelters at Denver Airport and all over and avoid the coronal mass ejection damage and come out later. But the more I look at all of this, the more I think that they've just been fooled by the Anunnaki, and that if even they do go underground, all the oxygen is going to be sucked up off the earth by the coronal mass ejection. They're going to suffocate in there unless they got 100 years supply of oxygen, which seems rather doubtful. So I don't know if our managers are the smartest people on earth, but has been winter, and it hasn't stopped. It is freezing cold, it's snowing, it's raining, and it's because they're messing with the weather that's causing resultant low-pressure systems to form and could even be bringing on a mini ice age. So, these things are all combined together.
My evidence is that part of the spill that was engineered, the gasket, I have a whistleblower testimony telling me that the gaskets, whatever you call them, were known to be weak and that they were supposed to fail. But that there is also a volcano under there that is erupting, and that there is that oil is supposed to move up the coast, the Atlantic coast, over to Iceland, and down the European coast, and that's part of their population, depopulation plan.
Congress shall now vote for approval of H.R. 8791, the Homeland Terrorism Preparedness Bill. Said bill requests emergency response funding up to and including, I'm sorry, this section is classified, dollars to prepare for a national level terrorist attack and or attack from classified. Funding for first responder personnel and vehicles would be doubled if said attack leads to more than 80% of national population being affected by classified. This funding shall commence in conjunction with the first attack on classified, or the first large-scale outbreak of classified, dependent upon which comes first. Civilian and military units shall be trained in containment and combat of classified, including irradiated classified with possibility of classified airborne, classified flesh-eating, classified, and or all of the above in such event as classified spewing, classified escape, are released or otherwise become uncontrollable. Air Force units may also be directed to combat said classified due to their enormous size and otherworldly strengths. Should event occur in urban areas, Jesus. That's classified, far surpassing our darkest nightmares. Should casualties exceed classified body disposal actions, shall be halted and associated resources shall be reallocated to classified underground, classified protected birthing centers. A new Bill of Rights shall be drafted and approved by classified. Having now reviewed the bill, I ask you to please cast your votes.
Advanced in time. Your minds were not yet ready. Still not. Maybe never. No matter. You may not comprehend us, but you will comprehend our warning. You must.
None of what you are saying makes sense.
Our words are not meant for you.
What are you talking about? There's no one else here.
Enough. I do not wish to speak with you, but through you. You are the prophet. You played your part. You anchor him, but please be silent, that we may commune. Listen. When we were still flesh, and our home still whole, our kind betrayed us. We who made you. We who gave you life. We were strong, but you were many, and both of us craved war. So busy were we with earthly concerns, we failed to notice the heavens. And by the time we did, the world burned until naught remained but ash. It should have ended then and there. But we built you in our own image. We built you to survive. And so we did. You were our numbers, your kind and mine. It took sacrifice, strength, compassion. But we rebuilt. And as life returned to the world, we endeavored to ensure this tragedy would not be repeated. But now we are dying, and time will work against us. Truth turned into myth and legend.
Formed and placed around us like prison walls to say, I'm not trying to offend any religion, but those religions are just manufactured to keep us in slavery and keep us from knowing who we really are. And who we really are is astonishing. It's the most astonishing story there is. I mean, we are the paragon of creation. We are the possessors of hyperdimensional bodies, and we can do anything. The great anthropologist Robert Waller, who's a dear friend of mine, was really the first white guy to ever get into Australian Aboriginal culture. And he lived with them and traveled with them and went on walkabouts and wrote a great book about it. But he tells astonishing stories of psychic abilities among these Aborigines to talk to each other over hundreds of miles. They know where the game is 3 or 4 days before the game even moves into the areas where they're going to hunt them. They know where the salmon is going to be, days before the salmon shows up at that place, so they're there to get it. And so what he's showing is that our original primal selves, which are represented by the Aborigines, have incredible abilities that have all atrophied for us because of technology and all the rest, and that we are incredible beings who are eternal and infinite, and we can do anything. And this is what the Anunnaki do not want us to find out. This is their number one goal. Fear. Keep everybody locked in fear so they can never relax long enough to find out who they really are, how powerful they are, and how we can knock these guys out in a split second if we collectively decide to do so.
Right. But have you, there's lots of places to go with all of that, and certainly as what we say is that the biggest secret, that is the biggest secret. In other words, our own power is the biggest secret that they don't want us to know. I have to say, however, that humanity is waking up, and what you're talking about is a precog, abilities that have to do with being precogs. And I'm wondering if you're aware of autism, the role of autism, and the fact that there are lots of autistic children more than ever before being born, and that this is actually being engineered by the black projects with a purpose in mind. Are you aware of that?
Well, are you talking about the vaccines that cause autism? They have... so you're saying that
there is a photograph, this is a photograph inside of the human brain. The cells of the brain are magnified to the size, or to the equivalent size of a car. The electromagnetic clouds looking in the center. Now, if I didn't have this part up here, what would you think this was? A spaceship. Once again, say it again. You would think that this was a spaceship. But this shit is in the center of your brain. Once again, let's read. The cells of the brain are magnified to the equivalent size of a car. The electromagnetic galaxy-like cloud in the center is the eye of Heru. Horus here. It is inside the brain in a fluid-filled space called the third ventricle. The eye, Heru, is alive and active and floats above the pineal gland and is influenced by melanin and the spirit world, unseen.
Hi, I'm Wayne Barbosa, and presently, Bottom Waste Project is looking for a space in a building somewhere or within a program to create some jobs. We're a non-profit organization. What we do is try to help people who have no career, no jobs, little hope. Try to get them inspired to do something for themselves. And if you know anybody that can help us or would like to donate or give us a hand, please call us at 401-248-1152. And we greatly appreciate it. We're not expecting our politicians or anyone to do anything about this. We're expecting the citizens of Providence, Rhode Island. Thank you.
MBE and WBE procurement in Maryland. Boston or wherever, we've been around and about gathering information so that our report is one that's very comprehensive and makes sense, gives the great tools for direction. Having said that, I would like now to ask if any of the members of the task force, if you have anything to add before we can begin with the hearings. Feel free to. Okay, having said that, why don't we begin? Good seeing you.
Good evening to the general public. Thank you for being here today. My name is Matt Bird. I am the Government Relations and Policy Shop for Mayor Providence. I'm also the Senior Counsel. Pleased today.
Good morning, America. All right, today is the 3rd of November, and some coincidence or circumstances have compelled me to write down some documented incidents that happened since I went to City Hall, and let them know that I was here and that I was going to keep an eye on them. Well, long story short, I'm on my way to the studio to drop off a tape, and I had been sensing that someone's been listening to our conversations on the phone, that I've been watching and stuff. Pretty much everybody that's in this line of activism gets that paranoia where you feel like the FBI or somebody's, monitoring you. Well, I got a story that's going to tell you there is some truth to it. Like I said, I was on my way to the studio. I stopped to get gas, and on my way out I noticed that I had no brakes, and I didn't go straight on the highway, but if I had, it would have been a terrible accident, because that stretch there is awful. All that traffic going into Providence that time in the morning. In fact, it's 9:10 exactly. But this is a culmination of events that's been taking place. First off, I can say this. I actually got some colloidal silver and was in a flow and making beautiful DVDs, making great contact. Everything was nice and flow. And I get a phone call that my son's under attack up there in New Bedford, that they have to move. some circumstances came up. So anyway, I went to go help my kids move. And while up there, I noticed that you know, the people were very depressed. They were telling me there was jobs were worse than Providence. Nobody's working. My kids, fortunately, they, you know, got skills. They're in construction and a lot of other, you say, under the table type activities that are legal, except for taxes. You know, it's hard to report taxes when you ain't got no food. You gotta feed yourself, or you pay Uncle Sam. Well, I would have never been able to raise my 13 kids if I did that.
Surprise. A growing grassroots movement born on the internet to elect a virtual unknown to the highest office in the country. It began on a popular online chat site where Diana Falzone, a former